Gambling doesn't get nearly as much hate as it deserves. Talking from a U.S. perspective. Compared to other harmful activities, gambling is widely accepted and even promoted. I've never seen an anti-gambling campaign, but ads for casinos are everywhere. Now even YouTubers with significant under-18 audiences are promoting apps like DraftKings. Gambling deregulation is being celebrated by politicians. Nobody sees issues with this? I haven't seen anyone significant trying to push back on this. Gambling is a detriment to society. The industry operates on the principle of taking your money and giving you nothing back. The risk of gambling addiction is increasing every year. It should be viewed far more negatively than it currently is. So true. It's a fool's errand. The odds are stacked against you. Long-term gambling will always result in a loss. Whoa, an opinion. I agree with my girlfriend's dad is a huge gambler. He took me to Tahoe to gamble while I hiked. I'd come in for the day to see him just dumping hundreds in the machine like it wasn't a big deal. That stressed me out so much. Casinos don't exist if they aren't making money, but he doesn't see it that way. I was behind the jump serving this guy the other day, and after a couple we start chatting. He runs casinos and told me never to gamble, having seen firsthand what addiction does to people. He has a barred list of 100 people in just one site, and most of them aren't anything disorderly but for their own good. Shit is serious, ruins lives of not just the individual but others around them, and if so inclined others they don't even know. It's a pox. In Australia, it's also hugely linked with organized crime. It's abusive and predatory and negative affects vulnerable people most of all. Our advertising ban on smoking should be extended to gambling. Agreed. I'm not a gambler, and when I did visit Las Vegas, I found the casino floors depressing. Mostly older folks throwing away their retirement savings, looking for a quick fix. It takes advantage of stupid poor people. Gambling really isn't logical. Sure, it's fun with friends, but casinos aren't made for you to win money. Same for lottery, it's not made for you to win. And the weird thought processes people go through with gambling is crazy. Like someone has to win, right? And gambler's fallacy. When I heard card counting is against the rules, it becomes obvious that gambling is a scam, in that even when you find a valid winning strategy, they kick you out. If you find a losing strategy, they'll comp you a room and give you a buffet pass. If you can afford it and do it in moderation, it's fun. If you can't get through the day without doing it, that's a problem. Same as drinking alcohol, eating unhealthy food, smoking marijuana, smoking cigarettes, etc. There are any number of things in society that are going to be a big problem for a small percentage of people that do it, but do we want to ban those things for everyone because of that? I would say no. I definitely like gambling. I can turn a non-interesting sports game interesting really easily with $25. That said, I can afford to gamble. The problem is when you can't afford to and still do. I get about 3 hours of entertainment for every $25 I gamble, and that beats just about everything else I do for entertainment. I've somehow managed to make money sports betting over the past few years, but I've always looked at it as spending $25 to make the game interesting. The winning of the bet isn't the part one care about, it's the added rooting interest that I'm paying for. Gambling is a cancer on society. I once spoke with a compulsive gambler who ripped off everyone he knew and lost everything, including his house and his family, to his uncontrollable urge to gamble 24/7. I wish I was a drunk, he stammered through his tears. At least I would eventually pass out. There is no possible way to wipe out gambler. Too bad. To make it worse, gotcha games exist, which are hella overprices and accepted. They are another terrible form of gambling. Lootbox system also exists in CSGO. Yes, especially now where literally every third TV commercial is for gambling. Sports TV stations have entire shows presented by Degenerate, and these new sites allow you to gamble on everything. First run points scored, who will score first, what color shoes someone will wear, which pickle would go down a pane of glass first. It's insane. Then in 5-10 years some Ivy League journalist is gonna write a think piece asking how did so many people become degenerate gamblers? It's like a sick joke. Yeah, it is everywhere, addictive, and destroys lives. Where do you think politicians get money from? I'm sure the gambling lobby is something that is paid to not be talked about. I've never seen an anti-gambling campaign. Maryland used to have one. Then they got the sweet taste of Keno money. Told people the money was going toward public schools, it wasn't. And now it's full-blown casinos. Occasionally you'll see a public service announcement about the dangers of gambling. But it's shadowed by lottery commercials. If I'm at a bar, I'll tell people I'll play the house and give Keno odds up to $100. I've never lost. The house never loses. Gambling against people is fine for me, like sports betting or poker. The problem I have is betting against the house, cause there is no way anyone except them can win in the long run. Also fuck sponsored ad gambling. I use the Global Poker website. They literally advertise gambling addiction recovery, and have offers to restrict the amount of money you can lose before being cut off with no way to unlock it until you have passed a certain date threshold. You wouldn't normally see these advertisements unless actually in the gambling areas. And I speak as a poker player, not a slot machine player. But similar to alcohol and tobacco, it is considered your responsibility to recognize your addiction and get help for it. It is not the substance's fault addiction exists. Loot boxes and video games are absolutely engineered to normalize gambling to an entire generation. Of course, responsible gambling can be as fun and rewarding as any other activity, but history has shown that the fine line between hobby and obsession is very thin in human nature. Gambling can be just as controlling over a person as heroin or meth. While those drugs are not socially acceptable to use, gambling is. Religion has ceased to be a potent tool to control the masses like it used to be, so now the powerful will use gambling among other things to keep us poor and desperate. 100 agree. It's a racket. Here in Ontario GTA area, there was basically a sports book ad at every corner, TV commercial on the subways, and GO train. It was pretty disgusting. Gambling is supposed to be something fun you do when you have too much money and nothing useful to spend it on. Like when you're in town temporarily and just need something to do. It's an entertainment. I just like the free drinks and talking to strangers. It's an epidemic in Australia. Linked to poverty, domestic violence, etc. Absolutely fucked. Advertised on TV all the time. As a person who watches an elderly woman burn through her savings at the casino while the same woman is telling her that her hours are being cut because she won't be able to pay you for much longer if she doesn't cut back. I 100 agree. It is an addiction that hurts almost as many as booze and drugs do. Yet it is shrugged off because this disorder puts money in rich pockets, whereas drugs and booze generally gets them nothing. This speaks to my soul. My whole family has a gambling addiction. Gambling is just another abuse of scientific illiteracy. This is definitely one of those things where you can use the math you learn to understand why you never win when you gamble. It's because gambling is seen as a form of entertainment. The moment people start to change their views on gambling as entertainment, the sooner gambling will die down. I agree with you. But every gambling ad ends with a promotion to anti-gambling helplines in the US. I'm pretty sure it's a requirement. I have a FB friend that always does unlicensed raffles, draws, lotteries, you name it. It's her little side hustle. Totally illegal. Zero oversight or transparency. She could literally make up who won or what the supposed prizes are.